Alright, so have to back up a little bit to get this completely in the shot. Here's a Zenith model 9S232, I believe that's right. This one radio is better known as a Walton radio because this radio was featured on the TV show The Waltons. From what I understand, there's several different models that look the same, but this one is considered a Walton radio. This is a very large radio. This thing goes up above my shelf up there that I keep my equipment on, and this one's going to be a little bit tough to work on my bench because it's such a large tombstone radio. But this was sent in for repair, complaint was distortion and low reception on shortwave band. Spoiler alert, I've already plugged this thing in. I've got it on a variac to run it at lower than line voltage, as requested by the owner, which would be a good idea on something like this, because if you mess up the transformer, you're probably going to be SOL. But anyway, so I did fire it up and didn't get any distortion, but definitely low reception on shortwave. So I was only able to pick up a few things on the lower shortwave bands, or excuse me, the upper shortwave bands. The way they have these bands on this was the first shortwave band is the upper band, and the second one is the lower band. But this is anyway a very large tube radio. This thing is really cool. It's got, some of you may be familiar with this radio, some people may not be, so that's why I'm going over it. The volume knob has its own dial. What is that, 1 through like 17? And then you've got your on power switch, which is, it's got local and distance. So basically it would be an attenuator on local, and distance would be the attenuator off and your power off. So anyway, this radio, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it was made in 1937 for the 38 model year. So it probably was produced in 37 and 38. And anyway, so anyway, let me turn it around and give you a shot of the back of it. Alright, I had to turn it around. I had to be kind of careful because I didn't want to scratch anything. And this is a 9-tube radio, I believe, and typical of Zenith, first class all the way. It's just very well built, and I would imagine when it's working correctly, a very good performer. Although I did hook it up on AM, and it did quite well on AM. But the broadcast band did good, but the shortwave band is a little deaf, so we'll have to look into that. It could be just an alignment issue or whatever. So the backstory on this radio was it was owned by a collector, and it was restored about 25 years ago. And the guy, the collector, used it in his office and listened to it in his office, and it really hasn't been touched in over 20 years. So the owner, Mr. Keith, sent this in, and it's been here a while actually, and it's been a while since I've been able to get to anything, but he wanted me to go through it and make sure that everything was going to be good to go on it, for him to kind of just use it and enjoy it without having to worry about whether something was going to blow on it or whatever. So we're going to go through it and find out what's going on with the shortwave and look at everything else and see how it was done. And you never know, we may have to start over on this thing and completely redo it. Who knows? Alright, so I managed to rustle this chassis out of this large cabinet there and Tell you, there's just enough wire. You have to turn this chassis a certain way to get the speaker wire to reach where it plugs in that corner there. So, and then I had to prop up the chassis back behind it so it wouldn't go over that way, because the transformer is on top here and weighs it down, and I want to tip the chassis over, so I had to kind of shim it up so it'll stay in place. Yeah, this thing's a really sophisticated, you know, dial mechanism, because it has the flip dials that flip out and all that. So there's really a lot to this thing. It's got auto tuning in it, and where it's got these belts, the belt driven motor. Well, actually only one belt, but then it's got this sort of dial string mechanism here, and I really don't want to even mess with that, because I'd hate to know how difficult that would be to restring. A lot of people, collectors and people, would cringe at this with solder, you know, just kind of hanging here and stuck. I got some of it off. But even though this thing was supposedly restored, which it looks like it mostly was, there's still some paper caps left in here. About 2 or 3 of them. There's one there. I'm sure it's nothing critical, but you know, it probably should be changed, and I'll probably need to go through here and look at some of these resistors and check those and see how those things are doing. But it's had a lot of caps replaced, and they do look a little bit older. They use some orange drops in here, some of these here, and then they got this here. These are pretty stable caps though, so I may not even have to mess with those. I've got one big one here, but I think the main problem with this thing is it's deaf on shortwave. Alright, so I'm about to check these paper capacitors for leakage. See if we got any positive voltage on, positive DC voltage on these paper caps here.
Financial professional who can bring biblically wise
actually getting
someone who can really align their advice
negative 6 volts on that one, so that one's not leaking. But let's check this one here on the 6K7.
The certified Kingdom Advisor designation, more than 1,500.
Got a little bit of positive voltage there, which indicates that cap's a little bit leaky.
For professional biblical financial advice. If you'd like to find a certified Kingdom Advisor in your city, you can head.
Alright, so I've been going through some of our resistors here and kind of made a list here of what all is, you know, I went through all of them and wrote everything down and compared it to the tolerance sheet on our schematic here. And we got some that are a little out of whack. So it gives the tolerance, tells you it's a half watt or whatever, and plus or minus 20% or 10% is what I'm kind of getting here. So I went ahead and replaced R4, which is the 470 ohm resistor. That's in the front end, and then the 27 there's a 27K ohm resistor. Now for some reason on this schematic they mark it M, but M is for thousands instead of K, so that's just the way they wrote it back then. 27K ohm resistor, which is R4 and R5, which is right here. And so the next thing I need to replace is this this 220K, which is R11. It's actually reading 430K, so that's definitely needing to be replaced. Alright, so there's this 390 dog bone that was tacked right across that mica cap there, and I checked it, and it's reading 455. This isn't extremely high, but I'm gonna go ahead and replace it anyway, just for good measure. The owner of this set told me to go ahead and replace anything that I thought, you know, would be borderlined or whatever, because it's probably gonna be a while. He wants to just use it and not have to worry about, you know, anything that may fail, so, or may go up in value. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace this. And then this 1 meg right here is reading 1.2. It's right at 20%, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace that one too. Here's an example of that 1 meg here. Let's see if we can get a reading on it here. Well, it's actually checking a little bit better out of the set than it was in there, but it's already out. I'm going to go ahead and replace his reading 1.17 meg. It's pretty close to 20%. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of it. Alright, so we got a 3.3K. You should be able to see it at the center of your screen right there. I've got one side of it unclipped there from the circuit, and this thing's in a real pain PETA spot, I'm telling you. But it's checking 5.1K, and so it needs to go. And I've got to figure out how to get to it around this volume knob. So I need to get it out of there. I had a suspicion it was high, but that's why I went ahead and snipped it on one end and checked it, and it's reading high, so we got to get that out of there. Okay, so before, yeah, I was replacing this one here, which we got changed. It was a real PETA change, but I got it. So these two, I decided to pull them out of the circuit and check them. This one checks good, and this one's, it's a 2.2, it's reading 2.4. I've got one leg unsoldered. I'm gonna go ahead and replace that one. Go ahead and get that one changed. And then I'm going to I'm gonna get these paper caps out of here. That one, and I thought there was another one somewhere. This one here. I'm gonna get those two changed. Okay, so this is not a high voltage test. It's not a definitive test or anything like that, but it gives you an idea that these caps, this 0.05 here, is reading high, 0.082, and that's at low voltage. So if you were to put higher voltage on it, it could show, it could skew it even more. But it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. You know, these things, even though these things are, you know, on a low voltage circuit and all that, you know, still a good idea to replace these things. I mean, these things are, what, 80 plus years old, so I mean, yeah, it's a good idea to go ahead and get rid of them. That way you don't have any future problems. But let me hook this other one up and see what it reads. This one's pretty close too. It's at 0.075, and I've got the black lead hooked to where the band is at, which indicates sort of the negative or shield side of the capacitor. So anyway, yeah, outside foil shield. Anyway, yeah, 0.75. So yeah, these needed to go. Here's a 0.02 at reading 0.35. Here's another 0.05 at reading at 0.86. So yeah, it's just a good idea to get rid of these old paper caps. And you know, they've served their time, and you know, they're only made out of paper and wax and foil. You know, they're not meant to last forever. Alright, so we're going to go through here and check these tubes so we can get these on order. the owner of the set said he wanted to replace all the metal tubes and all the tubes that are not original G style tubes, which are these little short tubes. He wants to replace those, and he wants to replace these metal tubes. So I've already noted the numbers on those, so I'm gonna go and check the G tubes, the glass tubes, the big ones like this. This is a 6L7. I've already got it set up on the military tube tester here, and it says the minimum value is 23, and so that's 35-ish. So yeah, we're fine on that one. Okay, I made a mistake on that last tube. The minimum value is 16, and the minimum value on this is 16. It's the same tube, but it's got a different setting for it, so we checked that, and yeah, we're actually a little closer to 40 there, so I would say that's probably about new old stock strength. That's good. Alright, so we have a 6K7 in the tester now, and there's two of them in this radio. One of them works as the RF tube, you know, for the RF stage, and then there's a one that acts as the as an IF tube. So this is the RF tube here, and it checks a little over 30. According to the chart, that's a little weak. It's supposed to have a minimum value of 36. So, yeah, I believe that one's a little weak. So, we'll probably recommend a replacement on that one. Alright, for shits and giggles, I thought I'd take out this metal tube that was over here and see what the deal was with it. See if it was just a tester being picky or the tube itself. And it's definitely the tube, because this is reading around 40. The switch is kind of, I need to clean the switch or do something with it, but anyway, it's reading way over 40, so we know it's the tube. And here's another 6K7 that I had in my drawer. It's a RCA glass top, big glass tube, and it checks almost 50, so yeah, it's definitely the tube. Alright, so we got a 6F6 Zenith. Oh, you can see that. Anyway, I've got it all set up. The line adjust is set, and it's a minimum value of 50, and it's right at 50. This tester seems to be a little picky on these tubes. They got the bias set kind of high, so I don't know. It's got a high minimum value. I've checked several tubes and they all failed, so I'm gonna call this one a good one. You know, I'm just gonna. It's over 50, so it should be fine. It sounds fine. All right, so we've got a little issue here with these rectifier tubes. This tester calls this tube a fail. This one, it's a clear pass, way in the good range, no issues. This one here just about pegs this one out, and it reads just barely a pass, or right at a pass, actually a little bit below the minimum value. The minimum value is supposed to be 40 according to this. A 5Y4, which is this rectifier tube, is minimum value is 40. So, and then if you go to plate number 2, you know, which is this 3, and you go over to 5, that's just barely above a minimum value. Alright, now I just swapped the tube. This is the tube that this is failing. And, well, now I'm getting a better reading, but it's still only about 30. Passing is 40. So let's go back over to 3, which is plate 1. Yeah, so you see it's still well below a passing grade, but you know, and this tube tester here, I mean, you know, you can't get no better than that, you know, so I don't know. This is kind of strange. I mean, this tube is obviously stronger than this tube, but I mean, is this really a fail? I don't think so. Alright, so with the tubes being ordered and us kind of waiting on stuff to come in, I want to address another issue that's wrong with this radio, and that is the outer and inner dials seem to be hitting each other at the bottom of the dial scale. I don't know exactly what causes this, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So it's already kind of chipped the black paint off there from it doing that for a while. So I'm going to try to disassemble this dial scale thing here and see what we can do to straighten this out. See if there's a simple solution. I'm going to take this dial glass off and be very, very careful with it. Okay, I think I figured out the problem. We've got the inner dial here. We've got it laying back flush again, and all it was, I took the dial glass off and actually pulled this thing off. That was not easy to do. The thing was stuck on there good, and that allowed me to pull this bezel back, this outer bezel here, and see that this was being held, this needle was being held forward by the bulb, the dial light bulb. The dial light bulb was pushed too far forward, and this needle was resting on it, and that looked like that's what was causing the needle to come out and hit this outer needle. So I believe I've got it fixed. Let's spin it around and see what happens. It doesn't hit there, but I noticed the needle when it got down this way, it was coming out. I think it was just riding on top of that bulb, but let's turn it all the way around and make sure it's not coming back out and it's not going to hit anywhere. Yeah, see, it's starting to come out a little bit now, but it's still not enough to hit the outer needle. And I don't think it's not hitting on the bulb or anything. That's getting closer. It's still not hitting there. And that's the end there. So, and I don't think I think this should go back a little ways. I don't know. This maybe need to be adjusted that way, but I think to adjust the needle, probably a good idea to find out what frequency it's on and get it lined up that way, because I noticed the oscillator on this radio doesn't really have very much adjustment on shortwave. So, but I noticed this thing is slowly, as it's going down, it's starting to fall back. This thing has a motor in it where you can hold it like this and it'll tune automatically with an electric motor in there that moves it. See, it's almost laying flat now, so let's see if it comes back out when it goes back up this way. This is kind of the opposite of what it was doing before. It would come out at the bottom. Something's hitting there. You see the needle jump around. Let me see if I can figure out what that is. Okay, so the last thing it was hitting on was just the edge of this as it came by. So I think that won't be an issue when we put the dial glass back on it and tighten the screws down. It'll push this down out of the way. So this right here, it was going too far this way, so I pulled it back out, and that seems to be about where it needs to be at right there at the stop point. So okay, so this is the other side, and it stopped right on that last line there in the corner. I'll move the dial a little bit so you can see it. It stopped right there on that line. So I think that's about where it needs to be, so I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to put the dial glass back on it. It seems to pass all the way around without hitting at all now, so that should take care of that problem. I'm going to put the dial glass back on it and make sure that this needle isn't scrubbing too far down here at the bottom. Okay, so I went to the mailbox and got our tubes came in, our replacement tubes. As I said before, the owner wants all these metal tubes replaced, and he wants the standard big size glass tubes put in, so that's what these are. So I'm gonna get these put in, and then I'm going to do an alignment. I don't know if I'm gonna do it on camera or not, and we should be about done with this set. The dial is fixed. All the out of tolerance components have been replaced, and so now we're going to put some new tubes in it, and I guess I'll run these through the tester before I do that. I guess I should do that. Alright, this is a 6K7. It's used as an RF and IF amp tube in this set. Looks like we got a value of about 55, and that's a minimum of 36, so yeah, no problems here. Great, good strong tube. Alright, here's our other 6K7. Both of these are the same GE tubes. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but they're both GE tubes. They came in these little nondescript little cardboard tubes wrapped in wax paper. So this one is reading about the same, about 55, so that's a good match set there. Alright, so this is a 6J5, 6J5G, and I don't know if you can read that, but it says made in England, L63, but this tube is dusty, and let's see if I can show you. It is also loose on the base. This is the only tube they apparently they had. It was used, and he said they just didn't have. He likes to buy new old stock tubes, but this one they didn't have a new old stock. This is the only one they had. So let's test it and see if it's any good. Okay, got our line adjust set. No shorts. This value here is, I need to clean the switch. Value is a little bit low though. It says minimum of 50, that's coming in about 42. So I'm going to check the old tube, the metal tube they've got in here, and see what the difference is. I'm just curious. I can't imagine a used tube dealer selling a bad tube, but it could be my tester. I found some testers like certain tubes and some don't, so let's check that other one and see compare it to it. This one does test a little bit lower. It's about 40 on here, and it looks like it's dropping off just a hair as I hold it down. Alright, this is a 686. This is basically just two diodes, a tube, and it's two diodes. This is the metal version of it, quite a bit smaller than this one. Let's see, reading 40, so just a little over the minimum value. Okay, this is the 6F5. Let's see, the line just is good. No shorts. Minimum value is 25, and that's basically 40, so looks good. Okay, so I touched up the alignment off camera, and we got the oscillator pretty close. That's WWV on 15 megahertz. That's it on 10. You can barely hear it, but that's pretty close to 10 right there. So I got the oscillator set on shortwave pretty good. Well, the next thing I need to do is I need to unplug this eye tube here and clean the pins on it. He said when he got the radio this wasn't working, and he wiggled this connector and it started working again, so I need to clean the pins up on this. Okay, so this is a Kenrad 6U5 6G5, and I don't know, looking at the pins they look pretty clean to me, but I'm gonna scuff them up with a wire brush a little bit, and I'll clean the pins, the female pins there, with some contact cleaner. Okay, so finally, these chassis washers that go inside the cabinet, and these flatten out over time, and the chassis will sink down, and your control shafts will sink down. They fit in these little holes you can see here, and as you can see, the old ones are quite a bit shorter or flatter than the replacement, so hopefully this will take care of the problem. Somebody had the chassis sitting up on these to kind of counteract these things sinking down, but Radio Days has these, and I think he's gonna stop making these things. I think he's either discontinuing that or something, so we went ahead and got these right away so we wouldn't have to not be able to get them. So anyway, we're gonna put these in, and hopefully that'll take care of that problem. That'll be the last thing we've got to do on this set, and we'll put it back together. Okay, before you watch this next part of the video, just know that I was aware that the eye tube was not working during the band scan part of the video, and I decided to film it anyway and deal with the problem later. As you can see, the eye tube is back working. The tube just suddenly died, and so we ended up having to get a replacement. Okay, here's our parts pile of passive components, capacitors and resistors. They're old parts, and I put up all the tubes, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a band scan on this thing. Okay, so it's after dark now, so the lower part of the shortwave band should be more active now, and I'm picking up CHU Canada. That's at about 3.3. That's Yeah, the amateur band starts at 3.5, so. Here are the people on side band.
Some wheel type of.
There's the AM. People talking on AM on 80 meters, so.
And it was LC network, so it didn't sound on the music or whatever. I got rid of it. But it was a cool box.
So yeah, it's working good on this band. Not much activity down here though. There's the preacher. Yep, it's working. Okay, so that's WWV on 5. And it's dead on 5, so the oscillator is set correctly on this band.
Yeah, we can bring.
I mean, I did the alignment with the signal generator, but it's always good to verify its on frequency by WWV. You know they're dead on frequency, so. There's the FT8 on 60 meters. So yeah, I'd say that works pretty good. We'll back it up here and flip it over to the main shortwave band. And this dial setup they've got on here is called a shutter dial system. It's really cool to me. These plates flip up like a shutter dial. CHU Canada, you can tell by the beep.
On to you. You're listening to the orbit. Just that. I believe, at the Romanian Cultural Institute. I'd like that one day I will be able to discover the whole of Romania, especially the places where the prisoners...
40 meters. Like FT8 on 40 meters.
One thing. Ooh.
Locución comercial Alberto Ferrer y Wilmar Caballero.
Sounds like some old radio program in Spanish.
Started the rebellion. They went into a city and told him that he should take the lead.
Morning, good afternoon, or whenever you're listening to Radio Slovakia International. My name is Mario Prochaska. I'm sitting here with Jonathan McCurry.
On television, to pay for newspapers, to print all that.
Looks like there might be some aircraft sideband there. Okay, back to the broadcast band. Well, that's 650. That's quite a bit off there. No, there's 650 there. It's supposed to be something else. Yeah. Usually 650s playing this kind of music. I think that's 650. WSM.
Blaze broke out around 5 o'clock tonight during a wedding that was being held at that venue. Those attending the wedding say it all started inside the chimney of that building. At this time, people are being asked to stay clear of that area on Millville-Oxford Road. And the Newport Police Department says one of their officers has been arrested after a
Next model from the 80s, the next model from the 90s.
Every Saturday at 5 p.m. on WJR. Learn how you can earn a full-time income.
It was WJR on the dial scale. Pretty cool. WJR was on the air back in the 30s.
Easy task, but it's nothing compared to what my own mom faces every day. At the sideline.
Trying to see in our lives.
In Yeshiva last week, 39-year-old Sherry Jones of Flatbush charged with arson and a hate crime. She was seen on camera pouring gasoline by the school and lighting a match before running away. NYPD statistics show that
Some people use Lavage to breathe better, see better.
The person. That's a good pitch, that curveball. You're hurt. You call the number of a lawyer, you see.
Up to 73 degrees. Thursday, our warmest day of the next 7. Sunshine gets us up to 75 degrees. A passing cold front Thursday night could bring a shower. By Friday, a partly cloudy sky and a high temperature of 69 degrees. I'm NBC 10 First Alert Meteorologist Steve Sost. At the moment in Center City, we've got 57 degrees at 8:34. The Philadelphia School Board is midway through its...
That we've been doing this for your own good to protect.
in so many ways.
Down about 0.7%. In this case, it's health scare.
Backup.
I love it because it's just easy to use.
Esperan más del pueblo de Dios
y los alejamos cuando...
Duty to let your fellow.
Lakers, Kobe always.
All right, that's about it. I'll run it back down here.
City Health Commissioner
880.
Brewer asks that the
So there we are. There's our, I believe this is 1938 Zenith 9S232. The Waltons, one of the Waltons set. This is the obviously the 9-tube set. I got her working pretty good. So hopefully Mr. Keith will enjoy them for many years to come. Appreciate all y'all watching.